They don't see you, no Nan, that's exactly why you're dangerous. There's a silence you know all too well. The silence of not being chosen, of being left out, of hearing your name skipped while others are celebrated. You sit in rooms where people talk about who's next, and your name never comes up. You scroll through highlight reels, see the shine of everyone else's spotlight, while you sit in the shadows wondering when it'll be your turn, if it'll ever be your turn. The truth is, most people won't believe in you until it's already done. They wait, they observe, they judge, and they smile politely while secretly thinking, nah, not a chance. They've already made up their minds. They've already written your story for you. A story where you don't win. A story where you give up halfway, get distracted, get lost. A story where your dreams are too big for someone like you. And that's exactly where your power begins. Because the best victories don't come from those born with belief. They come from the ones who were counted out, the underestimated, the overlooked, the forgotten, the mocked. These are the ones who don't just win, they erupt. They transform every whisper of doubt into thunder that shakes the ground. But that thunder doesn't begin in stadiums or on stages. It starts alone, in the dark, in the quiet hours, when no one's watching, when there's no validation, no applause, just you and your raw, unfiltered desire to become something greater. That's where greatness is born. Not in celebration, but in isolation, not in comfort, but in pressure. You remember the moments, the ones that hurt, when your effort was ignored, when your ideas were laughed at, when you showed up and no one noticed, or worse, they noticed and still didn't care. They said you were too quiet, too weird, too different, too late. But they never saw the fire inside. They didn't see the nights you stayed up questioning everything, yet refused to quit. They didn't see the jobs you worked just to survive while secretly building an empire in your mind. They didn't see the books you read, the tears you hid, the fists you clenched under the table while smiling in their face. No one sees the early stages, because no one cares about the foundation. They only care about the finish line. You've been building quietly all along. That's what they never understand. That being underestimated is a gift. That being ignored is your license to create without expectation. When no one's looking, there are no rules, no pressure, no mold to fit. That's where your authenticity is forged. That's where your real identity is born, away from the noise, away from the trends, away from the spotlight that blinds others, into sameness. You've been given the rarest chance to craft your greatness in peace, to fail in secret, to grow without judgment, to stumble, fall, and rise again without a crowd. Because when the crowd finally turns their head, they'll see someone they don't even recognize. Not the version of you they dismissed, but the version that was always coming. Silently, steadily, powerfully. You have to stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for someone to tap you on the shoulder and say, it's your time. That moment doesn't come. You take your time. You claim your space. You carve your name into walls they tried to keep you out of. Every day they doubt you is one more brick in the wall you'll later tear down. And when you do, it won't be with noise, it'll be with results, with presence, with undeniable impact. Because when you win loudly, it's not about arrogance, it's about clarity. You show the world what they refuse to see. You reveal the truth they tried to bury. You make them listen, not by shouting, but by becoming so loud in your purpose that even silence can't hide you anymore. Remember, this greatness doesn't ask for validation. It doesn't beg for approval. It doesn't shrink itself to fit anyone's expectations. Greatness is forged in lonely places, in seasons of silence, in battles that no one else knows about. It's forged when you're told you're not good enough, and you answer, watch me. It's forged when your voice trembles, but you speak anyway. When your hands shake, but you build anyway. When your heart breaks, but you show up anyway. And every time they count you out, you count yourself in louder, bolder, and more relentless than ever before. So let them doubt, let them laugh, let them sit comfortably in their assumptions. Their disbelief is the soundtrack to your rise. Their silence is the backdrop to your breakthrough. And when the time comes when your name echoes in places they swore you'd never be, don't hold back. Don't water it down, let it roar. Let your success shake the walls they tried to keep you behind. Let your light blind those who closed their eyes to your struggle. Let your win be so loud, so undeniable, so earth-shaking, that they're forced to rewrite the very story they once wrote you out of, because you were never meant to be quiet. You were never meant to blend in, you were never meant to be average. You were born to rise, to shock, to inspire. They don't want you to win perfect. That's your cue. Not just to win, but to win louder than they ever imagined possible. Rejection burns. It doesn't just sting for a moment, it carves itself deep into your memory, a scar you carry into every room where you question if you belong. You remember the first time they told you no, not just as a word, but as a judgment. It wasn't just that you didn't make the team, or get the role, or land the opportunity. Was that they looked you in the eyes and decided you weren't enough. And that does something to a person. It breaks something, or, if you're built differently, it awakens something. Because in that moment, you have two choices. Let the fire consume you, or let it refine you. Let it burn your identity, or let it forge your destiny. The people who rise, who change the game, who go from zero to unforgettable, those people chose the fire. They didn't run from rejection, they walked through it. They turned it into something powerful, something dangerous, something unstoppable. Every time someone tells you you can't, they hand you a match. And with enough matches, you build a fire so big, the world can't help but feel your heat. You remember the letters that started with, unfortunately. You remember the doors that stayed shut no matter how loud you knocked. You remember the interviews where your voice cracked and they politely said, "We'll be in touch," knowing they never would. You remember scrolling through social media watching people you know, people who didn't work as hard, didn't dream as big, get chosen, get celebrated, while you sat in silence wondering what more you could have done. But here's the truth, they won't tell you. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of their inability to see your vision. And vision is something only you have to hold on to. You don't need a yes from the world to start moving, you don't need applause to start building. You don't need permission to grow. Look at the legends. Walt Disney was told he lacked imagination. Oprah was fired from her news job for being too emotional. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers. Rejection was their origin story, but the difference was they didn't accept it as the final word. They didn't let no mean never. They used it. They bled from it. And then they built from it. Every rejection became a rep. Every insult became iron in their bones, because at some point, pain stops hurting and starts shaping. And when that shift happens, when rejection becomes your ritual, you stop fearing it. You start hunting it. You start seeing every closed door not as an end, but as an invitation to create your own damn door. It's in rejection that you meet the real you, the one without filters, without excuses, without the safety net of being chosen. The one who still gets up, even after being shoved down. The one who still shows up, even after being ignored. That version of you, the post-rejection version, that's the version that wins. Not the naive dreamer, but the battle-tested warrior. Not the hopeful beginner, but the relentless survivor. And people can't handle that version. They liked you better when you were uncertain, hesitant, easy to doubt. But the fire of rejection gave you clarity. It stripped away the noise and left you with a singular purpose. Prove yourself right, not for revenge, not for validation, but because you've seen what it feels like to be denied, and you refuse to be defined by it. Rejection teaches you what no comfort ever could. It teaches you resilience. It teaches you grit. It teaches you how to keep walking with blood in your shoes and fire in your chest. It teaches you that the people who say no to you don't control your story unless you hand them the pen. And you won't. You're done waiting for their yes. You're done begging for entry into rooms you were born to build yourself. You're done shrinking your voice to fit their mold. You've been through too much. You've heard too many no's. You've been shut out, talked down to, underestimated, and yet, you're still here, still breathing, still burning. That's not failure. That's fuel. That's so the next time they reject you, smile. The next time they overlook you, take note. The next time they say you're not ready, start preparing 10 times harder. Let their doubt echo, not in your head, but in your engine. Let their silence scream back at them when your name is lit up on the very stage they said you'd never reach. Let your scars shine. Let your wounds be proof not of defeat, but of survival. Because you didn't break. You refused to break. You rose, not in spite of rejection, but because of it. That's the part they'll never understand. That you didn't win by being chosen, you won by choosing yourself. Again and again, even when it hurt, even when it burned, even when the world said, "You're still trying." And your answer was always the same. Hell yes, I'm still trying. And not just trying, I'm becoming. I'm becoming everything you said I couldn't be. And I'm doing it without your applause, without your approval, without your invitation. Because I don't need your yes anymore, right? Built my own. Let the fire burn. Let the rejection fuel you. Let the pain sharpen your purpose. Because the world doesn't clap for the rejected until they can't ignore you anymore. And when that day comes, when your name is undeniable, when your presence is magnetic, when your win is so loud it shakes the very halls that once closed, their doors on you, don't forget the fire. Don't forget the no's. Don't forget the silence. Because that's what built you. That's what made you. That's what turned your rejection into revolution. They tried to bury you. They tried to break you, but you lit a match. And now they have to watch you burn bright, bold, and louder than they ever imagined. No cheers, no spotlight, no validation, just you, your breath, your doubts, and your dream. That's the grind they don't post about. The late nights where your eyes are heavy but your purpose is louder. The early mornings where the alarm is your enemy but discipline is your best friend. This is the silent grinder phase no one claps for, no one sees, no one celebrates. But this is where champions are made. Not under stage lights, but under pressure. Not in interviews, but in isolation. Not in front of the crowd, but in front of the mirror. This is the lonely work, the work that isn't glamorous, the work that doesn't pay right away, the work that makes you question your sanity, your strength, your strategy. It's waking up before the sun, practicing when no one is watching, building with bare hands, bleeding in silence, and still showing up tomorrow like nothing hurts. Because the grind is not for attention. It's for transformation. You stop announcing every move. You stop explaining your vision. You stop proving your worth to people who've already decided not to believe. Because you realize this journey is personal, sacred. You've outgrown the need to be understood. You don't need to be seen to be powerful. You just need to move. Every rep, every page, every email, every call, every minute you're depositing into a bank account no one else sees. But when it compounds, when it explodes, it'll look like an overnight success to them. But you'll know it was never overnight. It was built brick by brick in a world of silence. Because real grind is invisible. It doesn't trend. It doesn't brag. It doesn't beg for validation. It just works. It digs. It climbs. It bleeds. And it smiles through it all. Because deep down, you know you're becoming the version of you that can't be denied. While they scroll, you study. While they sleep, you hustle. While they gossip, you grow. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you've seen who you could be, and now you're obsessed with becoming that. You don't fear failure, you fear mediocrity. You fear staying in the same place, living the same cycle, being the same person year after year. That fear fuels your fire. It wakes you up at 5 a.m. when no one's texting you motivation. It pushes you through fatigue, through doubt, through boredom, because the grind isn't always exciting. Most days, it's boring, it's repetition. It's mastering the basics so deeply that no one can break you. It's saying no to parties. It's skipping weekends. It's training on holidays. It's choosing purpose over pleasure again and again, and it hurts. God, it hurts. The silence gets loud sometimes. You start wondering if it's all worth it. You wonder if anyone will ever care, if anyone will ever notice, if all this effort is just echoing into nothing. But that's when you remind yourself you're not doing this for anyone. You're doing this because of something. Something bigger, something louder than applause, something deeper than fame. You're doing it because you know that without the grind, the gift dies. Without the discipline, the dream stays a fantasy. You're doing it because the future version of you is waiting, and you refuse to let them down. There's something beautiful about moving in silence. It's power with patience. It's purpose without pride. It's progress without performance. You learn to listen more to your body, your mind, your instincts. You start sharpening your skills in the dark so that when the light finally comes, you're not surprised you're ready. And when people say, wow, you came out of nowhere, you'll smile, knowing that you came from everywhere they weren't looking. You came from the gym with no mirrors, from the studio with no cameras, from the journal no one read, from the hustle no one documented. You came from the trenches of discipline, from the battlefield of self-doubt, from the hunger that didn't need to be fed by followers. You stopped talking. You started building, you stopped proving, you started preparing, and now your silence is becoming your symphony. Every early morning becomes a drumbeat, every rejected idea becomes a lyric, every lonely night becomes a verse, until one day boom it all erupts into a masterpiece no one saw coming, but you knew, you always knew, because while the world was distracted, you were designing, while they were guessing, you were grinding, while they were mocking, you were mastering. You didn't ask for their approval. You gave yourself permission. You didn't pray for easy. You trained for impact. You didn't crave the limelight. You became the light dot. So if today feels quiet, good. If no one's texting you, liking your posts, recognizing your effort, that means you're in the grind. That means you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're not supposed to be loud yet. You're supposed to be dangerous in silence. Because silent work leads to the loudest wins. And when that win comes, when the crowd finally turns, when the doors open, when the lights hit, don't get distracted, don't get comfortable. Remember the silence. Remember the grind. Remember the hours no one saw, the pain no one understood, the sacrifices no one applauded. Let that silence live in your bones, even when the world gets noisy. Because that silence didn't break you, it built you doubt. So keep your head down, keep moving, keep building. They don't need to know what's coming. They don't deserve the preview. Let them think you disappeared, fell off, faded away. Let them forget your name. Because when you rise, and you will rise, you won't just return, you'll redefine. And the echo of your grind will be so loud, so powerful, so undeniable, that silence will never feel the same again. There comes a point where words fall short, where you don't need to explain yourself, justify your journey, or beg for belief, because your results speak louder than anything you could ever say. The grind, the rejection, the silence, all built to this moment, and now, it's here. The moment where you walk into the room and no introduction is necessary, where the same people who ignored you now struggle to maintain eye contact, where the same crowd that once laughed now leans in. Not because you talked louder, but because your work got so loud, it silenced every doubt ever spoken about you. This is what happens when you stop arguing with people who doubt you and start proving them wrong with actions so massive, they leave no space for opinion. Your results are the answer. Your progress is the punchline. Your success is the clapback they never saw coming, you see. People always talk. In the beginning they question you. Who does he think he is? Why is she trying that? What makes them so special? They whisper, they mock, they assume you'll fade away, just like everyone else who tried and failed. But while they're busy watching and doubting, you're working, quietly, methodically, without need for attention, because you know the truth. Attention fades but results last forever. You're not here for applause, you're here for legacy. You're not chasing likes, you're building leverage. And now, all those early mornings, sleepless nights, lonely weekends, and silent tears, they weren't for nothing. They were preparing you for the moment where you wouldn't need to raise your voice, because your results would raise the volume for you. And what a sound it makes. When success starts speaking, even your enemies go silent. Even your critics pretend they always believed. They rewrite history in their minds, conveniently forgetting the doubts they once threw at you. But you remember. You remember every no, every cold shoulder, every subtle insult disguised as advice. You remember the interviews that never called back, the rooms that never welcomed you, the posts that got ignored, the projects that got laughed at. And you don't bring it up to complain, you bring it up to fuel the fire. Because now, you're not bitter, you're better. You didn't just survive the silence, you transformed in it. And when you emerge, you're not the same, you're stronger, sharper, louder, without ever raising your voice. This chapter isn't about screaming I made it. It's about showing them you did, without needing their approval, without their support, without their permission. Because the real ones know you never needed to shout to be heard. All you needed was to deliver, to produce something undeniable, something that speaks for you in every room you enter, long before you say a word. That's what real success looks like. It's not boastful, it's brilliant. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. When you walk in with results, people adjust themselves, they lean forward, they listen closely, because now, they know you're not just another dreamer. You're the one who did it. Think of every person who ever said, you're wasting your time. Think of every eye roll, every laugh, every moment someone underestimated your ability. You didn't argue. You didn't post long rants, you just kept working. And now, your wins speak in volumes they can't compete with. Your consistency is your comeback. Your focus is your revenge. Your results are your reputation. And that's a language the world can't ignore. The same people who ghosted you now say, let's catch up. The same people who never supported you now say, I always knew you had it in you. But you don't need to clap back. Your growth already did. Because this stage you're standing on, it's not for applause. It's for proof. It's the moment you realize that validation isn't necessary when the work is undeniable. And the best part, you didn't cheat. You didn't skip steps. You didn't chase trends. You stayed loyal to the process, committed to the struggle. And now the outcome speaks so loudly, even those who hate you have to respect it. They may not like you, but they'll have to acknowledge what you've built. And that's louder than love. That's louder than fame. That's impact. So let your work echo. Let your performance preach. Let your results walk into rooms before you do. Because real winners don't talk about winning, they just win. And that win becomes a megaphone. Not for ego, but for evidence. Evidence that effort matters. That patience pays. That staying silent isn't weakness, it's a strategy. It's the art of waiting until you've earned the right to roar. Until your growth becomes so visible, so magnetic, so powerful that even your silence shouts. And now that you've arrived, don't look back in anger. Look forward in dominance. Look forward with the calm confidence of someone who knows they're built different. And remember, the results don't just speak for you, they inspire the next. Someone else, somewhere, is watching you. They're in their grind phase. They're facing rejection. They're sitting in silence, and your rise becomes their reason. You're not just winning for you, you're showing them what's possible. You're the proof. You're the evidence. You're the answer to someone else's doubt. And that's what makes this win even louder, because it doesn't echo alone. It carries the weight of everyone who's been told you can't and now realizes, maybe they can. Let the results speak. Let them shout what you never needed to say. Let your journey unfold not in noise, but in proof. Because in the end, words fade, hype fades, opinions fade, but results last forever. You've walked through the fire, stayed quiet in the shadows, endured the rejection, embraced the grind, and now you've made it. You're not at the start anymore. You're not fighting to be noticed. You're standing on the other side of the storm, not because someone rescued you, but because you refused to drown. And now, as your success begins to echo through the very halls that once shut you out, remember this: don't you dare apologize for it. Don't you dare shrink, just to fit back into spaces that couldn't handle you at full volume. You didn't survive all this to whisper. You didn't rise through the noise to go quiet when it's finally your time to speak. You're not here to blend in, you're here to stand out. You earned your victory with blood, with bruises, with a stubborn heart that refused to quit, so win loudly. Let the world hear what perseverance sounds like. Let them feel every step it took for you to climb out of rock bottom and step into greatness. They'll say you've changed. Good. You were never meant to stay the same. You were meant to evolve, to expand, to elevate. Growth is the reward for pain. And now that you're here, now that your name is respected, now that your work speaks for itself, don't dim your light to make anyone else comfortable. Don't pretend it wasn't hard. Don't act like it was easy just to make others feel better about quitting. You stayed in the fight when they walked away. You showed up when no one clapped. You kept going when everything in you begged to stop. You sacrificed your comfort, your sleep, your peace, your social life for a future only you could see. So now that that future is real, now that you've broken through the wall they said was impenetrable, own it, wear your crown, raise your voice, and win without apology. You don't owe anyone modesty when they only noticed you after the win. You don't owe silence to people who mocked your ambition. You don't owe your light to darkness. They'll say you're bragging. Let them. They didn't see the grind. They didn't feel the loneliness. They didn't bleed like you bled. Your success isn't arrogance, it's evidence. It's evidence that belief matters, that discipline beats talent, that vision outlasts noise. And most of all, it's proof that no matter how many people doubted you, you never stopped believing in yourself. So when you walk into rooms now, walk in with presence. Don't slouch, don't whisper. Walk in like a force of nature, because you're not just another story, you're the lesson. You are the reminder that underdogs rise, that silence grows storms, that pain births power. Celebrate yourself. Celebrate hard. You're not selfish, you're self-aware, you're not arrogant, you're awake. You know what it cost you, you know what it broke in you, you know what it rebuilt in you. So yes, post it, share it, scream it, not for attention, but for liberation. You owe it to the old you, the you that cried in secret, that fought battles no one saw, that questioned their worth, that almost gave up but didn't. You owe it to them to live loudly now, because every tear they shed was an investment in this victory. Every late night, every failure, every know-it-all paid off. Don't dishonor their sacrifice by staying silent in your success. Speak up, win out loud. And if your light makes someone uncomfortable, let it. If your success triggers their insecurity, let it. That's not your burden to carry. You didn't work this hard to make small-minded people feel safe. You worked this hard to shatter the ceiling, to break the mold, to redefine what's possible for people who come after you. You are now the evidence that it can be done. So be unapologetically excellent. Be loud about your story. Be proud of your resilience. Be bold in your next moves. Because the world doesn't need another humble whisper. It needs a roar from someone who earned the right to be heard, and that's you. That's your job now, to remind every dreamer, every doubter, every fighter in the dark, that winning isn't a sin. Winning is necessary, it's earned, and it's allowed to be loud. So hold your head high. Let the haters choke on your progress. Let the doubters watch you glow. Let the people who said you can't sit front row to your standing ovation. But don't apologize for the shine. Don't water it down. Don't say it's not a big deal, because it is. It's a huge deal. You broke the cycle. You did what they said couldn't be done. You proved that quiet storms become hurricanes, that buried seeds become forests, that people who once cried in silence become voices that shake the world. This is not your moment to fit in, this is your moment to be unforgettable. So win loudly, win with your chest out, win with tears in your eyes and your hands raised to the sky. Win with gratitude in your heart and fire in your soul, and never ever apologize for it, because they didn't want you to win, and you did anyway. And that is the loudest sound of all.